This is Tim Horton, who's the director of the Fabians. Thanks very much for joining us. Now, I know you've been looking at this tax policy very closely. The Lib Dems say it would help the worst off, those on low incomes. What do you make of that?
Well, that's just not right. The worst off don't have enough resources to be paying income tax, so a tax cut doesn't help them at all. And our analysis suggests around 3 million of the poorest households in the country wouldn't get anything from this tax cut. Pensioners in particular, only around the richest third of pensioners pay income tax, so they would gain from it, but the poorest 2/3 of pensioners would get nothing, and that's not fairness.
So you're thinking that the Lib Dems are actually being misleading about this, because, you know, it's on the front page of the manifesto here, they're talking about fair taxes. They've made a big play of making this about people at the bottom of the income bracket.
Yeah, I think it is a bit misleading, to be honest. I mean, the Liberal Democrats have a political conundrum. They've got to fight the Conservatives in many of their heartland seats. This is really a juicy tax cut to be selling in seats like Winchester. It's not a measure to help the poorest, and I think it is a little bit dishonest to be selling it in terms of fairness.
So what impact do you think this tax package would really have? Would it really make things fairer at all?
Well, our evidence suggests it would actually increase inequality between the bottom and the middle of society. And that's quite an important inequality in terms of welfare. How the poorest people fare really depends on how much they have relative to those in the middle. We call it relative poverty. And our analysis suggests this tax cut would increase relative poverty.
So it might make things worse then for the poorest people?
I think it would, yes.
And just in terms of the actual figures, the Lib Dems say this tax cut would cost £17 billion. Who would that go to in terms of the numbers?
Well, around 1 billion, just 5% of that cost would go towards lifting those on low incomes out of tax, which the Lib Dems have made quite a big play of. The remaining £16 billion, 95% of the cost, is really going to cut taxes for middle and higher income households. That might be politically astute when you're fighting the Conservatives, but perhaps it doesn't entitle you to claim you're the party of fairness.
Now, Tim, your group is of the left. You're a think tank of the left of the political spectrum, so in a sense, you would say this, wouldn't you?
Well, yes, but I mean, the Liberal Democrats here are claiming to be concerned with social justice and concerned with fairness. And what our analysis suggests is that actually they're falling short this time round. Nick Clegg's been moving his party to the right in order to fight the Conservatives. And I think it's wrong to be selling it in terms of fairness. OK,
well, just if we can, I'd like to bring in Danny Alexander, who's Nick Clegg's Chief of Staff. Danny, thanks very much for joining us at short notice. Now, Tim Horton's the director of the Fabians here, and we've just been hearing from him that your tax cut, that you're selling as something for those who earn the least in society, actually is going to help the better off much more.
Our tax change is going to help people on low and middle incomes. That's what we've always set out. If you are an income taxpayer who earns less than £10,000, you will pay no income tax at all in future. That will be a significant improvement in your circumstances. It will also be a significant incentive to work more. If you're earning more than £10,000, you're earning £20,000 or £30,000, you will have an extra £700 a year in your pocket as a result of our changes. If you're wealthier, if you live in a mansion, if you take capital gains tax, if you are making large contributions to your pension, then you'll be making a contribution to the £17 billion fund we need to raise to deliver this income tax change.
But Danny, this tax cut will benefit people on up to £100,000. Now, you cannot fairly sell that as a tax cut for the worst off.
It is a tax cut for the worst off. It is a tax cut for anyone who earns less than £10,000, who currently pays income tax, will pay no income tax at all. If you earn £10,000, you will benefit to the tune of £700. Proportionately, that's a much bigger change to your income than it is further up. And of course, if you're earning a lot more money, then you will also, I suspect, be contributing to on the other side of the equation as well. That's why it's fair. It's closing loopholes that benefit the wealthiest, and it's putting money principally back into the pockets of people on lower and middle incomes.
But on Tim's calculation, most of the money goes towards the better off. Do you deny that?
Well, I accept that.
So you accept that most of the money goes to the better off?
I accept that the benefit of the tax cut is distributed from anyone who earns between £6,430 a year upwards. Of course that's right. But I think we are the only party in this election that's offering anything at all for those people. We're the only party that's offering tax breaks for people on low incomes. We're the only party at all that would give those people much greater incentives to go out to work. I think that's a plan that I'm certainly proud of on the basis of fairness. I think anyone who believes in fairness should think the same.
OK, Danny Alexander, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And Tim Horton too from the Fabians, thank you very much indeed for joining us for a rather noisy College Green. Sometimes, Emily and Matthew, we attract quite a lot of tension when we're on air down in Westminster, so apologies to anybody who might have had some trouble hearing.